and the HR. All right, let's see what we got here.
All right. I don't even know what this is. What the fuck's needs analysis?
I think it's because they are you might have it as foundational planning potentially. So like you might have to hit the drop down on the
Yeah.
side.
I just didn't, I never even seen that tab. Like, let's do what you said. So yeah, this is an important part.
Click the little arrow.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to advanced planning. Yep.
Yep. So go to that. Does that okay? That eliminated
Yep,
these.
that yeah.
Get it out. Get it out of here.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously you see all this stuff's in here. Gotta edit this in. One thing, this is I'll throw this in. This is one thing that I noticed. If you're doing education planning, which I know is gonna be another video,
Yep.
but you I've noticed lately you gotta go to advanced and put in their contact information. Like all you do is just like put Maryland in here and then it changes it to in-state tuition.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
That's good.
like, because I kept being like, why is it like propping up the value so much? So I would just go in and save that. And then when you put the kids' schools in, it defaults to in-state
Oh,
tuition.
cool. That's good enough.
Yeah. 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 Okay, cool. So obviously we got Alessandra and Luis in here. Age 36, 38. They're both going to retire at 65. Life expectancy is 95. We can obviously change all that
Yep.
in here if we need to.
Yep.
Then I know the first thing that I go into straight is the net worth.
Yeah, I know financial priorities and goals, like we're not really using a ton, right? Like
Not yet, not yet. That's
it's more
a
like the
huge
annual review.
information for sure.
Gotcha.
So then let's go through like obviously if we needed to add anything, start here. So I'm gonna say they have a taxable account as well.
Like they do have a joint brokerage,
Do
and
they?
we got
Okay.
they got his 401k and her 401k. So maybe like a Roth or something. Maybe
Yeah,
a
sure.
Roth
Let's add that. Let's add that. Let's get them a little Roth IRA. And I'm gonna say that they are just starting with one contribution with us. Let's call it 6,500 bucks is what they had.
IRA.
I always go down default to growth pre-retirement and income post-retirement.
Question on that. So like as far as this the whole point of this obviously is for the Athlon advisor. Are you what's the protocol on each advisory office like in terms of what they use for the growth rates, like the assumptions? Because I've seen we at headquarters are doing like 9% pre-retirement and then like essentially like 6% post-retirement. I've seen State College does like 4% across the board.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
mean,
it's
I think you
yeah.
can certainly, use whatever default rates you're comfortable with. I think 9 pre-retirement is comfortable,
Hmm.
and 5 3/4. I think post-retirement is very comfortable. Like, I mean, I really feel comfortable with the 5 3/4. I think 9 sometimes is a little aggressive, but at the end of the day, that's what we're shooting for. Joe knows those are like the mandates.
Mhm.
So Joe's comfortable with those numbers. He kind of like asked one time to break it all down, so we
Yeah.
did. So that's where we're starting there. And another thing that I didn't do, but I should, I always just name them
Yep.
Alessandra and let's call it NFS because that's still the platform we're currently using.
Good looks. Good
All
looks.
right, so we got the NFS IRA there. Let's take a look. So 401k is in there. Traditional 401k was the tag there.
And then I guess
Oh yeah, yeah.
those
Hey,
growth
hey,
rates adjusted.
9 1/4 post retirement. You guys crazy.
Okay.
See what they got defaulted in here. Okay, so I do like 0 and 0
Yeah.
on cash accounts.
Yep. Yep.
Joint brokerage. I'm gonna go back to our old 9 5 3/4.
Yep.
Let's go back. 401k is good. See Luis's 401k. We're gonna drop that down as well. Okay, we're good there. Good there. We already got the NFS. I always default real estate to 3. Let's see what they're
Like the
doing.
default inflation rate
Yep.
on here.
Yep.
Which
And
side for those but for those at home, like I think at the top of the page, like you can adjust like a lot of assumptions that the system will generate for you on the spot. So like like I know State College, for example, since they do 4% across the board for like
Yep.
growth rates, they've set that as their default. So if you create a new client, you add any of these accounts, it'll automatically make those growth rates that the case. And same with like inflation. Like you can set your like here, I think we have inflation set at 3%, but
Yep.
you can set it at like 3.5,
Yeah.
2.5.
Yeah. I like to keep it at 3 because that's
I think that's fair. Yeah,
traditionally that's been
I think so.
the American rate.
Yep.
So okay, we got the net worth all in here for them right now. Income. So Alessandra's making 155 and Luis is making 120.
Mhm.
And then that's projecting out their social security based on their income.
Yep.
You always want to check this one just in case, like check with them, get their social security statements, but that's all fine for now.
Go back to the Social Security one real quick, and then click on the advance for it, like just for either person.
Yep.
Um, this is actually what like I've used to like show them how to get that Social Security statement, like on the right
Okay.
side where it's like click here to access an individual's like statement at the
Oh,
bottom.
really? I
Yeah,
didn't even know
yeah.
you did
So
that.
like so that's how like clients have always asked like, oh, like where do I get my Social Security? And then like this
Huh.
takes them to the page to like log in and like create that. Um,
See,
so
that's why we're doing this. This
there
is
you
the
go.
dream team right here.
There you
We're
go.
we're
There you
learning
go.
on the fly.
There you go. There you go.
Good.
That's yeah, because I know like we've always noticed like the system estimates it, but it's always nicer to kind of see like what Social Security is actually telling the client,
Yeah.
like what their retirement benefit's going to be.
100%. 100%. Good. 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 So then let's go back to facts.
And then are you guys keeping the Social Security inflation rate at 3% too, or do we take
That's a
that
good
down?
point. I always custom that down to 2
Or-
because it doesn't usually keep pace with inflation, so it's a conservative assumption to drop that down to 2. Let's get this one customized as well down to 2. Good, good, good. Looking good there. Okay. Now, expenses. Okay, that's weird. So they're gonna be 200,000 a year for each when they retire.
Yep.
I don't know why there's no current living expense, but let's call it
The same one?
let's
Like say it's
I'm just gonna say like 120 for right now.
or-
Okay, 120 current, 200 each. Remember, the mortgage is gonna be on top of the current, so the
yep.
current is after tax spending. So they're spending 10K a month, and on top of that, they're gonna have their mortgage. They have some education goals in there for the kids. They have term life insurance premiums.
Mhm.
They're saying state taxes. Since we're Maryland, let's go over to Maryland. They're coming in. They're new residents to
Yeah,
to
there you
the
go.
the old line state,
There you go.
and then local tax.
Like
It's
three
not
point.
exact across the board, but many local tax rates in Maryland are about 3.2%. Let's do that. Okay. And then 1040 on
Yep.
the Fed side. Savings and contributions. So they're making 5K a year into 529 for and 6,500 into the other 529. Then Alessandra's doing 7% of salary, 4%. Here's one thing that I look at too. It always defaults to all earned
Yeah.
income.
It
You
drives
got to
me
go in and like put the specific
drives
salary.
me nuts. Like you gotta fix it
I know.
every time.
I
Like,
know. Doesn't make any sense, but hey, okay. Uh, just make sure you do that. The employer contributions in there. If you need to add one, we'll show you how to do that too.
let's say they're doing like a Roth or something.
Yep, yep. I was just gonna add to the raw. So let's say when Alessandra retires, and we could just say she's gonna max it out every year from there.
And comment I'll make too, like when it comes to the employer contributions, like
Yep.
the system kind of has like weird ways of you saying like, oh, they can match like 100% up to like 50%. Like,
Yeah,
so,
let's
so like,
let's do one of those. I'll knock out
yeah,
Alessandra's real quick. So the employer's doing 4%. Let's show how that works. Let's go in here. Alessandra 401k, employer contribution, boom. And then I think I always do it this way, but you tell me. I always do 100% up to
Yeah.
4% of the
Yeah.
salary.
An easier way I even like how they do it too is where it says type instead of just doing match percent.
Uh-huh.
If you click that drop down and just say percent of salary,
Okay.
you can just
Ah,
do that too. Like
okay.
I just know like I liked doing that more and more like as I figured that out just
Yeah.
because the match thing I'd check the cash flow and the report and it would just be weird sometimes.
Okay. Totally fine.
But the way
So,
you did it's right. Like
yeah.
100% up to like 4% of their
Yeah,
um
because sometimes they have like, oh, I get 100% up to the first four, and then they do 50% for the next two.
yeah.
So I mean, you really could just say 5% of salary, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's fine.
Yep,
Okay, cool. And then that's really all that we're worried about. I know they probably have some protection in here, the term insurance, you can add that in for sure. There's quite a few. Life insurance, long-term care, disability, property and casualty, medical insurance. You could add all those in.
yep.
But so the first thing that I do then, now that once I confirm with the client that all those are correct, we'll role play this out in a second, Colt, but let's make sure advanced planning. Let's take a look at their assets. Always the first spot check that I do. Well, they're gonna make it. We're gonna be okay. Let's see. Okay, hold on. There is clearly an assumption that I don't like in here that I'm going to fix.
The cash. Yeah,
So
a lot of cash is sticking out there.
that cash, I know exactly what needs to be fixed. Let's go in here.
Oh, I bet it's that is that year end savings.
Yep. Let's go into advance. Okay, so
It's,
how, I
yeah.
think it's an assumption maybe.
No, go down to savings and transfers. Yep, year end saving.
There we go. Yep, and we're gonna clear that out.
Yep. And Chris, for the viewers at home, what is the importance of that?
Yeah, so we don't want to say that anything left over is going to get saved because that's where people use their vacations and all that sort of stuff. And also, too, I feel like sometimes they're like, oh, well, this is how much I spend, but then, like, I don't just have all that cash sitting at the end of the year. So life happens. Life definitely happens. So let's make sure that that got cleared out properly.
Yeah, I feel like the way I'd always think about it too is like they tell me their salaries, and it's like, all right, so 200K is your total income, and what are your expenses? Oh, 100. It's like, okay, so theoretically you have 100 grand left over every year in savings. So like, no, we don't. It's like, okay, so clearly
Right.
something happens
Right.
every year. Like that money finds a way of escaping.
Exactly. So as you see now, instead of
Yeah.
having hundreds of thousands of dollars left over in cash, they're really never going to have any cash built up, which is
Right. Yeah,
that's fine. But they do, they're doing a good job of socking away money to the 401k, so that's going to carry them through. But you can see here, like, uh, $200,000 for them is pretty aggressive. It's
Right.
still working out, but like
Yeah.
they're deleting their brokerage account within 6 years of retirement here, 7 years. So
Yeah.
we're going from 2.7 to nothing. And by 73, that's aggressive. So that's okay. It's obviously working out, but something to keep note here, like,
Yeah.
hey, you guys are spending a considerable amount of money annually.
And also with this too, Chris, like I know segue or foreshadow to a different module, but like I know we've always talked about like how e-money, it's like not the greatest for showing like the distribution plan.
Yeah.
Because like they have the liquidation strategy here, I think is like most tax efficient. So like
Yes,
they're
but
including the brokerage and then the Roth. But I know we kind of use like the Excel sheet now too for like the income planning. Is
yeah,
that
but
right?
I've actually let me show this.
All right, yeah, let me see if there's a different option here because that'd be cool.
Okay. So basically what I've done now too is you can advance plan that out.
Oh, cool.
So if nothing else change, let's make a change. I think it's, hold on a second. The wrong button there. How do you do that?
You're trying to change like the liquidation strategy.
Yeah. So
Does it make change to expense, you think?
I think it is. Yeah. It's not
Yeah,
expensive.
not add new, but maybe like make changes to.
Yes. Oh shit. Damn it. All right. You got Sadowski with Sadowski brain right now, making some wild clicks. Hold
They
on a
do
second,
make
'cause
change.
I think it's yeah, make change. There you go.
The liquidity strategy.
Okay. So if there are specific accounts you want to, okay. So obviously you can do strategy by type. You can do like this is what you were talking about, which is like lowest tax impact, then lowest performance, highest risk, all that sort of stuff. We also see like liquidity, but
Mhm.
you can also do this user defined schedule. So like basically I could say
Oh, cool.
add this asset,
Checking.
add the brokerage account, let's add the Roth in there. And then let's see if we can get away with just adding like Alessandra's 401k for a second, right?
Right.
So like obviously here I would like if they were going to need any money before retirement, yeah, it's still the joint checking, then the brokerage, then the Roth, then 401k.
Right.
In retirement, we could say the same exact strategy. Um, and it's probably going to look exactly the same, but let's see.
Yeah, it looks like
Basically the same, but when you look in here now, you'll see like that Roth IRA probably takes more of a hit than it was earlier.
yeah.
So yeah, but just just to show you can do the distribution
Yeah.
strategy if there's specific accounts you want to go out. But let's go back to like the normal base here again. And then the next important thing is to open up the actual presentation here. We always have our Athlon retirement projection in there.
Yep.
Let's open that. And now,
And even I'll just make a note, like I know each advisor like wants it. The Athlon advisors, like we can get the template set up for them,
yep,
so that they'll have that same default option.
yep, 100%. So let's backpedal here. We're gonna backpedal like Darrell Revis. We're going to Revis Island. So let's take it through for a second, kind of go through how I would actually walk through with a client. So Colt, you've been promoted to Luis right now, and Alessandra couldn't meet with us today. So Luis, I know my team and I have spent some time putting the facts and things like that together. So if you have any changes that you want me to make, I'm just gonna walk through the facts, explain to you all of the assumptions and things like that that I made, and then we can make any adjustments here. So, Luis, did I get the birthdays right for you and Alessandra?
Yep.
Okay, cool. 65 is the default retirement age that we use. I can move those in.
Sure.
Do you or Alessandra want to see any changes in that right now?
Let's see if we could do 60 if that's
Okay,
possible. I know that the
cool.
missus does not want to work
Okay,
as long as I would like to
yeah,
work. So,
sounds good. Well, then why don't we do this then? So why don't we do 62 for you
okay.
and 60 for her because that would mean that you guys retire in the same year.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I don't think she'd like if I'm working and she's not.
Look, I
She
get
likes she
it.
just wants to spend time with me. What are you gonna do?
Yep, yep. Okay. So now you guys have retired 60 and 62. 95 is the life expectancy. And then you have Ariana and Alberto. 5 and 1. Do we get the ages right there?
You did.
Cool. Perfect. Okay. So now you guys have your net worth. I know that you guys have 5 grand sitting in the checking account as the emergency savings. I think we'll talk a little bit about that if that's the right number. I'd probably like to increase that a little bit for you over the years. Then we have your joint brokerage account, which I think right now is sitting at Schwab, so we'll talk about that. One of the important things that I mentioned, we always start the pre-retirement growth rate at 9.25, and then post-retirement, we're only growing these assets by 5.75 because I think that's a very conservative approach. We don't have to get a high rate of return for your retirement.
Okay.
Then Alessandra's 401k is in here. Same thing on the growth rates. She's at 265, and it's a traditional IRA, not a Roth 401k right now. So got the traditional set up. You're the primary beneficiary. On the same side, you have 180 in yours, traditional again, 9.25 pre-retirement, 5.75 post-retirement, and she's the primary beneficiary there. Then we have her Roth IRA that we're growing. She made a $6,500 contribution. This year, same growth rates, same beneficiaries. Then we have your primary home, 650,000. That's just going to grow at 3% inflation. No real need to change that. I know Maryland has a little bit of a higher growth rate, but for right now, we're just going to keep that there because we never intend to sell the asset.
Right.
And then you've got the mortgage. You originally paid $350 on your mortgage. You have a $300,000 balance, 30-year term at 4%, and the loan started in 2012. All right, cool. And then we have the kids for 529s. Those are both already allocated in there as well. Okay. Now, I know when we talked, you said that you guys' income, Alessandra right now is making 155. You're making 120. That will grow by 3% every year as well, indexed to inflation. And then you guys, we have your Social Securities in there based on your income. If you do have any questions, you could go in here, and there's actually a tab where you can click and get access to your Social Security statement. But we'll go through that later. Right now, I index the Social Security to only grow at 2% inflation because, once again, I think that's a conservative estimate that's more in line with reality.
Gotcha.
Then let's take a look at expenses. You guys told me, remember, this current living expense is the amount of money that is after tax that you're truly spending on food, groceries, all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
On top of that number, which will come out first, is your mortgage payment.
Okay.
And then we have the education goal set up so that way the 529s are the dedicated assets here for your education. Ariana has always wanted to go to Virginia State University, and we have the dedicated funding of the 529 right there. 4-year duration starting in 2037.
Yep.
For Alberto, he's going to Hawaii Pacific University, and that's also funded by his 529.
Perfect.
And if I look, then I know you guys are spending money on your term life insurance premiums. Then we have your federal taxes, Maryland state taxes, and local tax are baked in here as well.
Perfect.
Yep. Okay, savings and contributions. Right now, you're saving $5,000 a year into Alberto's 529, 6,500 into Ariana's 529. We have contributions. You're maxing out a Roth IRA with us every year. Alessandra's doing 7% of her salary into the 401k with another 4% match, and you're doing 5% salary contribution with another 3% match on your side.
Sweet.
Perfect. Good. So let's go in here to plans now. Now, one of the things I will tell you, since we made a little adjustment there on the fly, we'll see. I like to do a little sneak peek here. Sure. And just say, okay, based on the information that you gave me, are we good to retire at 60 and 62? So, to be honest, if you retire a little bit earlier and you still, we think life expectancy is 95 for each of you, we do have a short spending shortfall here. Okay. So the last 3 years of retirement, living at $200,000 a year, that is going to generate a shortfall. Okay. Now, one of the things that I can do, though, to offset that, let's say $200,000 a year. I know, don't want to argue with your cost of, your living expenses and things like that. But what if we did say let's make a change to living expense for a second. So one of the things, Luis's death in retirement. Let's say Alessandra drops that down to 150,000 a year when you pass away, Luis.
Sure.
Okay. So there's still a shortfall. It dropped a little bit, but let's see here. Okay, so the shortfall really happens at 92, 93.
Well, I
So
feel like once we get to that kind of 80,
mhm,
85 range, we're probably not going out and about as much as we
yeah.
usually would. So
Okay.
I can't speak for her, but I think if we
Yeah.
dialed it back a little bit instead of
Okay.
200, maybe we'll do like 1 to 80, or even
Okay.
190.
Sounds good. So
I think
let's make
I think the missus would be okay with my assumption. Um,
let's see if I can override this a little bit then. We're gonna go to the actual worksheet then.
so I think I know what I've usually done is like you hit basic,
Okay.
um, and you go. So you'd say, I mean, honestly, I would say just even try changing like the um, retirement to just make it like 190 or something.
Okay. Yeah, if we did 190 across the board,
And
that
then
will
you probably keep the 151 there.
yeah, that'll help.
There's other ways I have done in the past where like I showed expenses like from certain age ranges.
Yep.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. So if we cut back by 10 G's a year, we're okay. So we could retire earlier than we were saying, 5 years earlier for you. Alessandra cuts back by 4 years, and then we're good to go. So now let's actually go through the retirement projection.
okay.
And one of the things that I'm going to do here, so if you don't make any adjustments, you just go off the base facts. But since Luis did want to change, you can go to change plan right here. And this is the one that had the cut down to 190 expense.
Yeah,
So now all of those facts are
yeah.
going to change based on that.
That was a mistake I learned the hard way. Where like I would make all those changes and I wouldn't reflect them. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, we've all been there, don't worry.
Yeah,
So you could go back through assets here,
sure.
just same sheet that we just saw. Then I always like to go through cash flow living expense.
Okay.
So one of the things, this comes back to what we talked about earlier, the year-end spend, right? The system originally was saying that the year-end spend stayed in there. We got rid of this extra 16 to $40,000 in there. No
Yeah.
problem. But so they could have extra money for saving, but we're not going to factor that in right now.
Right.
We're
Yeah,
gonna say,
which I guess makes sense because we're already saying that we're contributing to the 401ks, we're
yep,
putting in the 529s, we're maxing
yep,
them off. So we already accounted for the contributions. That makes sense.
yep. And you can see here from 120 in today's dollars, Luis, you're going to be spending north of $1 million at your highest level to live the same level of lifestyles today.
2082. Holy
Yeah.
moly.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be making pennies anymore in 2082.
All my bitcoins.
Yep. Okay, so income. So 38% of every dollar that you need is going to come from income sources. So your social securities, they're going to grow to 84,000 when Alessandra starts and 73,000 when you start pulling
Mm,
social security. Planned distributions are the RMDs coming out of your traditional accounts. They
sure.
start in 2062 for you.
Okay.
And then you can see here 2062, 75 for Luis. Then they jump up next year because Alessandra's has an RMD, and
Right.
every single year we're pulling some RMDs for you. Now let's take a look at retirement expenses. You can see here, so your insurance premiums, both your policies expire at 62, 63 here. The term policies, your plan savings stops when work stops.
Right.
And then your living expenses are coming out here every single year. So in total, your retirement is going to cost $23,578,000 in living expense and another $5 million in taxes, and you'll be total $28,745,000 to retire. So we're on track for that. I like withdrawals here to show, okay, here you see, so we're going to spend down the Schwab joint brokerage here early. This little spend is probably to pay off the rest of the mortgage, but we can look back on that. Then Alessandra's 401k gets depleted next, followed by Luis's 401k, and then the last account that we touch is the Roth IRA depleted at the end. So you can see, obviously the years we're still working, 0% withdrawal percentage. You start with 4.8 at 61, sorry. And then you're always around 5, 6, 7. Then you get up to 8, 9,
Sure.
20, 30%. So we want to try to stay between a 4 and 5% rate of withdrawal. You can see you get pretty early into the high 5s, low 6s. So that's why you see the assets depleting over time. We could talk about if we can make some expense calculation changes, maybe you work another year or two. Maybe we could pull it in from 65 to 63 and we feel better.
Sure.
But regardless, we have options here. We have options.
So as an Athlon advisor, you're usually recommending to the clients to try to keep that withdrawal percentage in that 4 to 5, even 6 range.
That makes sure that we're safe for the duration of retirement, right? Like, I mean, I understand, especially if you have a client with all traditional assets, you're going to see, once the RMDs kick in, usually around 82, 83, especially 83, 84, their withdrawal percentage is going to get up if all their money is in qualified accounts. But, if we could do our job, like this example that we're using, breaking the fourth wall here with Luis now turning back into Colt, like, if somebody has that level of brokerage funds, I really would think that we're able to keep them pretty low. But 190 grand a year, 200 grand a year depletes that so fast. So if you can get them to be a little bit more reasonable. Also, I don't think, like, they built up in this example, they had already built up a brokerage account that was a couple $100,000, and then they never contributed to it again. So that would have offset some of this. But, I would be, if I was delivering this plan, I'd be a little nervous. And, like, we'll see what the Monte Carlo says, but it's not going to be 100%. Like, usually most of mine, like the Monte Carlo's high 90s.
Right.
So
I feel like that's why I usually saw it too. Like when you get to like the part where it's like, how much could you spend?
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, oh, cool. So then they go up to that max. But then I feel like the Monte Carlo is like, yeah, well, if you do that, like your probability is like way lower.
Yeah. And so actually you bring up a good point. We'll peg you back as Luis for a second. So basically, when you asked me to rein in the retirement ages, I pretty much, that's as early as you could go. 60 and 61 for Alessandra, but we said 62. But regardless, that's as early as I'd like you to retire. If you went a little bit early or later, you get more wiggle room. So right now, 194 is the maximum spending that you could do. So you only have $4 grand in wiggle room every single year for the duration of your retirement.
And that's after tax expense.
Correct. Yep.
After tax dollars. Cool.
Now, if we look at the Monte Carlo analysis runs 1,000 iterations of the market in your retirement, and this is only giving you 2/3 probability of success rate at 190,000 a year in spending. So that's why I'm saying this is a little concerning for me. Not gonna lie, I would be a little nervous with this trajectory. I would consider possibly working a bit longer or making some additional contributions along the way if possible. If you guys got bonuses or something like that, could sock it away into the brokerage account, that would offset these things. And finally here, the asset spread. So this is like the likelihood. So in the median 20% or the bottom 20% pile, you would be -3 million in total assets, meaning not even your home value could offset some of this. The median results say you'd probably be around 12 million in total assets, 16, including the portfolio. So, I mean, including the property. The 12 is just the portfolio assets. So there, there is potential that's still successful. Obviously, you could have a crazy amount of success if the market
Right.
does great, but I think there's a couple of things that could offset some of this stuff, including generating more income through something like an annuity, things like that. But it's not the highest probability of success that I saw, so I would look at making a couple of alterations to make this work.
And so you said some of those alterations, because I mean, given that scenario, right? Like, it's the expenses are the high thing, right? It's like, all right, 200 grand every single year, like that's a
Yeah,
lavish
yeah,
lifestyle. I'd love that. If I'd love to be Luis, honestly. But
yeah,
like, yeah, I agree with you. Where it's like, if that's what they're looking to do, either dial back those expenses or maybe work a little longer or
yeah,
contribute more. Like, if you really want to live that lifestyle, like,
yeah.
you got to
Let's see.
contribute more along the way to improve those probabilities. So like, once you kind of get to that part, do you show them like the what ifs, like, uh,
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely things I could do. So like one thing that I would do, right? Let's go back in. So I already have that plan.
right,
I already have the living expense changed.
sure.
Let's go back into their non-qualified account. What am I looking for? Taxable asset. There we go. Okay, so they already built up 250 grand.
Right,
And like I said, you see here, they were never making any contributions again.
right,
That would seem a little strange to me.
sure.
So say when Luis retires, let's say they just did another 10 grand a year into it.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I don't even know if that was possible based on like the expenses and all that sort of stuff, but let's take
I
a
think so. I mean, they were making like
yeah.
250, 300K a
Yeah.
year with living expenses were that. So
Now
like,
look at the change in assets now.
yeah.
Now they're still projected to have 6.5 million left over.
I
So
wonder what the Monte Carlo looks like
yep.
now.
Yep. I'll show that. I just wanted to see. So like, all right, so remember their living expense maximum was 194.
Right.
If they can get 10 grand a year into a brokerage account, it brought up to 207. So
13K
from
increase there.
yeah, so from 4 grand extra to 17 grand extra definitely helps.
That's a big
And then the Monte Carlo, I'm gonna take a prediction. I'm thinking 80s here.
80s. Okay.
Going 80s, maybe low 90s. Okay, I was a little overshot, but
I
I
think it
mean
went up like
it's
6%. It went up like
it's well, the problem is so I think it went up to yeah, 6, you're right. But like the issue in this scenario, if you have somebody going from 62 to 95, 33 years living off 200 grand is
it's
just going to be tough in almost any scenario. Like
not,
the level of assets they accumulated in this period should you'd really think, hey man, like if we got you to the point where you're sitting on $10 million, I'd
not,
like to believe we'd be able to come up with some strategies to make sure that they could live off of that. I mean, really, right? So the problem is here, so you're at 10 million 286. 4% withdrawal rate is 427 grand. Now I know it's not in today's dollars, but 427 grand, I would think, uh, should get you there. I mean, if they're living at 200,000 a year, so they're doing 400 G's in living expense. So that falls in line with that 4% number I'm talking about, but where they get killed, and this is why you got to be careful with the putting all the money in the traditional IRAs.
not.
I mean, they're
Whew.
gonna get destroyed in taxes here. So, okay, yeah, you can see for a while here from this is the way the system works, right? Most tax efficient to lease. So from 61 to 67, yeah, sure, you're not having taxes. But then your total expense jumps up to 615 because not only are you pulling money out to live off of, you got to pull another 140 grand a year in taxes. So it's really the tax situation
Yeah.
that's screwing them up the most in this. Like you're getting murdered in taxes every year, and it's lessening the probability of retirement. So trying to switch some money to Roth more and things like that, doing Roth conversions with them could offset a lot of this stuff.
Like
But
those two, like you could
that's a
even,
lesson for another day.
yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
even then you could dial back like the 401k contributions back to like the match, and then like reallocate assets like Roth and the brokerage. Like,
Yeah, you could do that. Also, like a lot of 401ks now have the option to just go into the Roth
yeah,
side. So
that's true.
if you
Like
can,
Athlon, like Athlon, they're the Roth 401k baby.
yeah, exactly. So you can, if you can change some things around, you can still guide these people to make it on the right trajectory. I think it's the 200 grand is probably like a tough sell for end of the year expenses, but hey, look, it's that's why we do these projections. We guide them and we get them on the right track.
For retirement projection, Chris, as far as like the financial planning process for Athlon would go, like where does it fall usually in like the timeline, and what would you say is like kind of the impact you've seen that that type of meeting has? Because I know we go through a ton of stuff, right? Like cash
Yeah.
flow, taxes, education, estate, insurance. Where does this one usually fall? Like, how do you like if you're putting a plan together for a client? When do you like to do this meeting? And like, would you say it's
So
your fave? You have an affinity for it?
yeah. So I think it's the most impactful meeting, but I would say so when we're looking at the how to get there list as constructed April 17th, 2025, assuming we don't make any changes here for a moment. Uh, we have the basically the goals meeting where they meet with the client service team, get all the accounts and stuff like that. To me, I don't consider that one of the meetings because I'm not
Yeah,
involved.
it's
Then,
onboarding. It's
yeah,
onboarding
yeah.
process.
So the onboarding process happens. Then cash management is the first one that I need to do because I need to figure out like what's going on with cash flow. How's money flowing in, flowing out of the household? Once we do that, then it's right to the retirement projection. So this is really the second meeting that I do with all the clients.
Yeah.
I think it's the most impactful because usually they're like, oh, are we like doing the right thing? Are we on the right track? And
Right.
I think as long as you sit down and break it down with them, I think it's the most impactful. And then too, like right there in this scenario, right? They were 36 and 38. Like they have plenty of time to course correct. Like if they say, no, man, we cannot live without 200 grand a year, like, okay, then you got work to do on your end. Like, find a way to sock away extra money. It's tougher when they're in the back end, right? Like when you got somebody sitting in front of you who's 65, it's like, well, I don't have a lot more time to save or do all those things. Like, okay, then like maybe we need to work more on like expense management and things like that. But I think the numbers, it's nice because the numbers don't lie, right? Like the numbers bear themselves out. And I also think like I do think that we're really conservative. Like when we were like looking through how we were allocating this, like look at like um the defaults in the system, right? When we just kind of like opened up this sample client,
Right.
like theoretically, I guess there are people out there saying, "Oh, your 401k is going to keep growing by 9% a year in retirement." Like, I'm sure when they put this sample together, right? Like, there was no scenario in which these guys were going to run out of money, but ours show that they were, and I think ours is way more conservative or like way more accurate projection. Like, you don't want people having to get 9% rates of return in retirement. I mean, you go through one 2008, 2009 event with them. I mean, these folks had 35 years or 33 years, whatever it was, that they need to live off this money. The odds that they're getting some major corrections throughout a 33-year period are almost guaranteed, pretty
Right.
much. Like,
Right.
you can't be telling them, hey, yeah, like we're going to go through it and we have no protection here. Like I said, like, well, I don't want to get too much into the weeds on this, but like if you had an annuity or something like that that guaranteed more income, like thinking back through the projection that we just did, only 38% of their dollars were guaranteed when they were coming in. I think a lot of times, I mean, in Maryland, we have a lot more pensions and stuff like that, government workers, but like I would have liked to get their guaranteed income in through like an annuity or something like that up into like the 60-70% range at least because they had the assets to do it.
Yeah, yeah, you can take like $1 million of that or
Oh God, yeah.
something. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like I know we're kind of like pushing up on the end of this thing, but let me see. We'll save that for another day. There's
yeah.
there's some
I think
ways that
that's a
we can add
perfect
things.
I think it's a perfect little segue onto the other module about retirement income projection.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, 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 yeah. That works. That works because like there are things you can do. Like I said, like you show. Gosh, I've done this with multiple clients at this point, right? Where like I do this projection and then I model out. I usually use a fixed index annuity. There's obviously a lot of different ways you could do this, but like I model that out and I show there's a way that we're going to do a transfer and all this sort of stuff to show in how that money comes. But like it changes the trajectory of the retirement so much when you're converting that money to income. So it really does help. The guarantees, I think, allow our clients to sleep at night a lot more.
yeah, no, for sure. And diversifies it too, because it's not so much like market. It's not correlated. It's an annuity account. Like that's it's easy money. So
Yeah.
cool.
Cool.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate your time, Advisor Sadowski. Me, Louise, and my wife Alessandra. We're very happy. We're very
Yeah,
happy.
good. I know you guys, came to this country a long time ago, just looking for the guidance of Athlon, and that's
I'm
what
just
we're.
hoping I can stick around. They've been sticking around my house a little bit,
We're
questioning.
back in HR.
So, all right, well, cool, bro. Well, thanks,
Oh,
man.
yeah,
I
of
guess
course.
we'll connect offline. I guess try to schedule the next one to try to get
Yeah,
some more of these.
that's fine. Well, the one thing that we got to figure out too is like, hopefully this is recorded properly. Like, I don't, if we need to redo it, that's fine. I don't mind.
Yeah,
Like, and like, I could also just like re-record it offline as well. But like, hopefully the Jump AI like got all the screen sharing and stuff like that. Well, I'll keep you posted on that.
okay. Now, before we end it,
Yep.
like, how should we? Because it's recording right now.
Mhm.
Do I need to click anything to like end it? Like, or just
No.
if I just hit end, is it just gonna?
As soon as we end the meeting, then the note taker leaves. It puts everything in there, and then I'll let you know like what it ended up looking like.
Cool. All right, sounds good, man.
Cool, boss. All right. Well, I appreciate the time, and then obviously this is how we'll chunk a couple more of these out along the way. I guess like if you want to like think about it at all, like I guess let me know what your priorities are. I feel like as long as we get a few of these done,
Yeah, yeah. I think like the retirement projection was probably the detailed one, and then
yeah,
like a lot of the other ones, like I think cash management's a real good one, and
yeah,
then like a lot of times, like maybe we get like AP on here to do like the insurance
yeah.
one and see how he talks about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get it knocked out pretty quickly. So
Okay. Sounds
cool.
good, boss. Well, I appreciate the time. Good luck on your call here.
Yes, sir. All right, thanks, brother.
Catch you later. Bye.